think we're live. All right, guys, this is Mark Joyner.
Father Freedom.
Why you always got to use your moniker, man? Come on.
It's a moniker.
He loves his moniker.
You got to use a moniker.
I need a moniker now too. His real name is. Are you going to just get rid of his real name? Or are you just going to go completely Father Freedom at this point?
There's no reason to be Mitch. There's no reason to be me. Sorry, Dad.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna call your mom. I'm gonna totally rat you out. Mitch has invaded my safe space. If you guys watch my morning videos, you will notice this. We are doing The Last Men, episode number 2 here, and this is gonna be a rather short one because we're actually going out and having fun tonight, people. But we're gonna get a quick one in here before we do this thing. We have to talk about these damn debates because everyone is losing their minds about this right now.
Everybody's so emotional about the debates. So what's great is that even if you're not an American, I was looking over here. Even if you're not an American, these debates are so interesting because you get to understand human behavior and you get to see what people are, how they are trying to manipulate the masses. So in the debates, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were talking, and
they had a little spat.
It was Kamala. She threw it out there. She lobbed it out. She said, "Joe, I know you're not racist."
But there was the big but.
Here's the funny thing. She didn't quite say the but. She put an and before it.
Yeah.
So because she knows
It was an
you can't say the
but. It
but.
was a silent
No, she
but.
said the but. Here's what she did.
Oh, did she do
She
it?
said,
Okay.
"I know you're not a racist, and I agree with you with X, Y, and Z, but."
Yeah.
So she didn't quite put the but there. She knows,
Yeah.
but she put the and there to soften that up.
She totally racialized the whole thing. I mean, a lot of folks commenting on this right now are saying that Kamala Harris destroyed Joe Biden in this thing. Now, actually, let me just want to say something really quick here about this whole thing before we break down the Kamala-Joe interaction, which is very interesting in its own right from just a human behavioral perspective, from a persuasion perspective.
Yeah.
But I did not watch the whole thing. Okay, I don't have time to sit down and watch these things for 5 hours. I've watched little clips, but my general impression of it is the same general impression I get from watching most of the Republican debates or any of these debates, and it's this. Most of these guys are talking about last century's problems. Like the only clips that I've seen where people were a little bit forward thinking. Well, so Tulsi Gabbard has, at least a sensible foreign policy. She's one of the only people out there, vociferously being anti-war, which I'm all for. She's the only one out there who's saying that. The rest of them are, total establishment hacks who are like, I want to blow up the fucking world. I mean, that's basically whatever. I mean, and that's the only reason Tulsi Gabbard is getting so much grief from everybody is because she is vociferously anti-war. That is my opinion. Marianne Williamson actually said some very important things. She said, we're not involved in healthcare, we're involved in sick care. We need to talk about why everybody is sick. I was like, preach, girl, that's exactly the conversation we need to be having. Andrew Yang, I don't agree that universal basic income is necessarily going to be the answer. I think that that's going to incentivize sloth, right? But at least he's talking about the necessity of that. We need to be that forward thinking because automation is going to be laying off lots of jobs. And Andrew Yang is at least saying, hey, let's address that. But other than that, everybody's doing all of this, let's turn into SJWs and let's racialize and emotionalize.
And pander to the audience.
Pander to the freaking audience.
It's all fucking scripted. And you could tell they had all these little tiny funny little sayings or these little monologues that they had ready, and they're just waiting for the right time to drop it in. And they'll say something
in my Spanish.
Yeah.
To pander to
oh
the
Jesus!
Oh my God!
And
so
you can see someone. They'll be like talking. They'll be like, and it's like it's straight off the hip, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, and that's why this, and it's like you found the moment to lob that scripted little speech in.
That's a good segue into the Kamala Harris Joe Biden thing because that was I feel like Kamala Harris was totally emotionalizing.
She's a great actress.
She was a great actress. I mean, they're all great actors, most of them. Some better than others. I don't believe that any of these guys really believe some of the stuff coming out of their mouths. I kind of believe Andrew Yang a little bit. I kind of believe Marianne Williamson a little bit.
Marianne. She believes she's a great cheerleader. But she ain't going to make a president.
And I love her books, and I love her ideas. I mean, you can tell she's somebody who, I don't think she has the grit. I mean, you can see her getting emotional towards the end, and it was like, girl, if this was rough, wait till you get on the world stage.
She's like, Trump, I'll see you on the field, and love will destroy fear. It's like, on the field, he would ruin you. And it doesn't mean she doesn't have good ideas. It means that she's not going to lead the country.
Yeah. Well, and if you tell the world your game plan, any good strategist is going to say, oh, okay, if that's the tack you're going to take, you have just locked yourself down to a strategic approach. And the moment you veer off that course, you become a hypocrite, and I'm going to play you mercilessly now. Any good tactician would see it like that. I'm sorry, she's not a great tactician from what I can see. As much as I love some of the ideas.
I think her intent is there.
Her intent is solid.
Which is sad, because in politics, none of that nice stuff matters. It's all a game of bullshit. So.
Well, and that's exactly what was interesting about, part of what was interesting about the Kamala Harris Joe Biden thing.
Yeah.
Right? Was that Joe Biden actually had some what I thought were reasonable rebuttals to some of the things that she was saying, right? Now I don't know what his actual history was, with the busing thing and all of that, but when she was coming in and accusing him of that, he was saying, no, you're misstating my position. What I was against was the Board of Education coming in.
Yes, the way in which that handled, not the thing itself. And that's a very typical tactic that people will use. They will. It's almost like a moral virtue signaling thing, where it's like, if you don't agree in which the way something is done, you don't agree with the thing at all. So like, on the left, anyone who is right has no heart or soul and doesn't care about anybody who's poor or sick or dispossessed. Only the left does, because they have different ways of wanting to get to the same thing.
Right, because if you voted for Trump, you are a KKK person of color hating bigot. Right, it's a proven fact, proven by science. It's settled science, in fact.
So I actually wrote down a few things which I noticed about her words, which I thought was interesting.
Let's hear it.
So she said, I know you're not a racist, and I agree with you that X, Y, and Z, but, so the negation, so people know that, is when you say but, you're negating everything that came before that you claimed. And then she did a little softening buffer where she didn't put the but immediately, she put a little and in between, like a little tiny little sandwich.
Right.
Kind of like the shit
that
sandwich.
That was very clever, actually. It sort of softened the negation.
It softens the negation, and it puts a little bit of space between the negations, so that people don't instantly see the negation. It's like and X, Y, and Z, and then she could have went on some tangent. She could have went on a tangent for like maybe another 5 seconds, and then said but. So then you forget by the time that the but is connected to the original claim. So like devious. I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but she definitely put that softener in there.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if it were on purpose.
And then she went somewhere that's completely unacceptable to me. She went, but, and this is personal, and this is hurtful. Personal has no fucking place in politics. As if like, and then she goes on to appeal to emotion, but she said personal and hurtful. To me, that's dishonest, because, okay, so to me, honest debating, which is not these debates, or almost any debate, but an honest debate should be, you argue the errors or omissions on either their facts or their logic.
Right.
Anything else is dishonest.
Well, let's talk about that here in a minute, okay? Because we need to talk about what the human effect of all this stuff is, right? What are they trying to accomplish? But anyway, carry on. Let's loop back to that, because that is a very, very important topic.
So she's talking about, this is personal and hurtful, to talk about the reputations of these United States senators that Joe Biden's talking about. And first of all, it's not that personal, it's not that hurtful to talk about the reputations of. So it's like, and she said of 2 United States senators. Now, is it not obvious they're United States senators? Did she have to say United States? Couldn't she have just said senators?
Well,
why?
She's grandstanding.
Why? Yeah, exactly. She's grandstanding. Absolutely. You don't need to say United States senators. She could have. It's not so obvious, but she could have made. See, a lot of the subtleness is not making it too obvious, because she could have said the reputations of these, these great men and these United States big-hearted senators. Like, you could add those and grandstand even more.
That's a tell to me that this is not accidental. These things.
No, man.
These are on purpose.
And she started choking up at that point.
That's right.
And I'm like, you have.
Those were about as real as AOC's tears in front of the migrant camp, man. I mean, come on. That was as real as what's her name? What's the chick on NBC that I find so annoying? Who started crying when she was talking about the children being sent to the internment camps.
Oh man.
She's a famous broadcast.
Yeah.
This is how much I don't care about the news now. I don't even remember the name of this. She's one of the most famous news broadcasters now. You know what I'm talking about?
I know the
Short-haired woman. You know who I mean?
I know the face. She's been on forever.
Yeah, she's been. Anyway, you guys know who I'm talking about, probably. Anyway.
So okay, so here's trying to induce shame,
Yes,
trying to shame him.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, she was trying to silence him.
Like
With that
yes, like discredit is too nice of a word. Like she's trying to I don't believe you're a racist, but you were acting like a serious racist, and you were like your friends are racist, and like she literally is like you're not a racist, but you are a racist.
Well, it's everything now. You know, a way of shutting down debate now is to say, I find that offensive. You know, as if that matters in a logical debate. But now everybody is so sensitive to that. If you say I am offended, people are like, oh, well, you know, I'm now the guy. I'm the bad guy now.
Right.
Right.
It's gross. It has no place in this. And then she, when you said it, he said like, she said, I don't. He's like, I don't. I never said I'm against busing. I said I was against the education, the
Board of Education.
the Board of Education
Yeah.
having their way, and so obviously she was straw manning, but also generalizing his position. And then she yelled over him after because then he was rebuttaling, and then she was like she started yelling.
Well, and what she was yelling about, this is what I found quite shocking.
Is that womansplaining?
It was actually. That's not a thing though, because she doesn't have power. She doesn't have power. See,
She's sure acting like she does.
That's the argument though. The folks who have gone down that rabbit hole or who are inculcated into that ideology, or that racism is bigotry plus power, right? So all of this has to do with power, and if you're not someone with power, you can't be guilty of any of these other horrible things that people are accusing you of. So therefore, if you are a woman, if you're a person of color, if you are trans, if you are gay, if you're any of these groups. Basically, if you're not a straight white male, right, you can get away with anything.
Right.
That's kind of the logic of the whole thing, more or less.
Right. So she was the oppressed yelling over the oppressor.
That's how they would explain it. Obviously that doesn't fly with me.
No.
Right.
Well, no.
I think if you're being an asshole, you're being an asshole. I don't care whether you're a man, woman, pink, brown, whatever.
Well, that's it. But that's the framing. Is like if she yells over him, they're like the most people who are on her side. I don't even want to say that, but people who have these.
Because there's only two.
People are playing. Of course, and they're extremes.
That's right.
If you don't have my opinion, you have the extreme opposite one.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Crazy. So and then. When she interrupted him, she was interrupting him with, I was this, I was this, I was that girl.
Yeah.
I was this. And that's actually one of the themes I noticed throughout the entire debates. It's like, who wrote their fucking copy?
Yeah.
Because it's all I.
I know. Cory Booker was doing the same thing. I live in a like an impoverished neighborhood, and people. I mean, that is such an incongruent statement. You're a United States senator. Nobody's gonna believe that you live in an impoverished neighborhood. You know, you get paid pretty damn well, actually.
It's like Bernie Sanders
laying that card.
The rich. We hate the fucking rich because that's all he's ever said since the 60s. He's got 3 homes.
We've got to fight for free chocolate for everybody. Free chocolate for the whole country. But we have to fight for it.
3 fucking homes.
Yeah.
3.
Dude, that dude is a mega hypocrite, man.
Every quarter he spends 40 grand on private jets. And the environment, 3 fucking homes.
Yeah.
And
it's obscene. The hypocrisy is amazing.
And people don't fucking care because if you say what people want to hear, they will be fucking brainwashed to believe it.
Something that really scared me about Kamala Harris when she was at her peak grandstanding. So when Joe Biden, and I don't like Joe Biden, okay? I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he does. I find him quite creepy. I think those videos of him groping those kids, I don't know, man. I don't know how that guy can actually still be in the arena after those videos. I mean, that those videos by themselves are enough. I mean, Al Franken had to resign from a picture of him like pretending like he was groping a woman. Here's Joe Biden actually like getting super creepy with little girls, man. Little girls. Like anyway, he actually said a couple things that made sense. He was saying, hey, that was your city council that did that.
Yeah.
That's your city council's right to do it. He was making the Platonic Republican argument of every state, every city should be its own experimental test bed where we can practice our own form of governance, and that the federal government should only step in when it's time for us all to gather together and guard ourselves. That the federal government should have very, very little power. But she was screaming, saying, the federal government needs to do something about it. And I was like, whoa, man, you don't understand fundamentally how the United States is designed if that's what you're arguing for. If you're arguing for more centralization of power, you're arguing against the foundation upon which the country was built, first off.
But she's cool with that.
She's totally cool with that. And here's the thing that really scares. If you guys don't understand why I think centralization of power is frightening, think of it like this: from a systems engineering perspective, you're talking about a central point of failure. Okay, central points of failure in systems engineering are a bad idea. Why? Because in good systems, in stable systems, you need fault tolerance, and fault tolerance requires distribution of power. Right? It requires things to be decentralized. So when you're screaming at the top of your lungs for the centralization of power, you're screaming for the country to be more vulnerable, first off. And
Yes,
second
of
all,
course, because we taken over in a heartbeat because you just take over one aspect.
that's it. And we can do more harm more quickly with the central point of power. That's why we have checks and balances in place, because we don't want a madman to come in and with one fell swoop screw everything up. So these guys who are arguing for more and more centralization, I gotta question their motives, man, because I don't think they don't understand this. I think they must understand it.
Come on, yeah.
You know, how could you not understand it? So what is the reason for it? And I'll let the conspiracy theorists, you know, comment on that in the comments here, you know, about their theories as to why. I'm not going to speculate. I got theories, but that's it.
Man, you remember, I mean, before we had a Federal Reserve, because people were, get rid of the Federal Reserve. Fucking A. But people are like, then what? It's like, what would we do? It's like, well, what did they do?
What did we do before?
Banks issued their own currencies, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very interesting thing. I mean, where is that going to go? You know, now, see, this is why this is all last century's discussion, right? With technology now, the conversation kind of needs to evolve. You know, it's like we can't be talking about the same stuff without, I mean, we're pretending as if the world is not transforming at a very rapid clip before our eyes. And nobody's talking about that. I don't understand how in any of these debates over the last, you know, several years, nobody has addressed that. I mean, nobody has come in and said, hey guys, technology has run amok and might destroy the planet. That's not even a topic.
I think it's because the average person doesn't want to fucking hear about it.
They don't want,
They
the
don't
average
want
guy
to
doesn't want to hear about it.
And you got to pander.
You got to pander.
They care about fucking healthcare.
Yeah.
They care about, they really don't care that much about education.
No, I don't think they do.
They care about healthcare because everyone they know is sick and has cancer because they eat fucking bacon and Pop-Tarts all day. So they're like, I need to pay for my healthcare.
Yeah.
And so they care about healthcare, and they care about rich people being rich.
I got to go back and give props to Marianne Williamson again. I mean, she's the only one who was saying we shouldn't be talking about healthcare. We should be talking about health. You know, none of those guys. I mean, why are we not having that conversation?
Yeah.
And everyone is afraid to have that conversation. No one else on the stage had the cojones to get up there and do that.
Why is it that people don't want to improve in general? Because it's true. Like because you can everyone intends to. Everyone's gonna start a business. Everyone's a millionaire. Everyone has abs in their own mind. Everybody has. You ask anybody, even the homeless guy in the street, he's got grand dreams of being that ideal human. But the results show that people truly don't want to.
Well, any of the guys who watch my wake up videos, this is a totally constant recurring theme for me. There's a Wim Hof quote that I've probably made about 10 times on my wake up videos now. I think I'm at 93 episodes, and about 10 times I've done this Wim Hof quote. And Wim Hof famously said, "Comfort is bullshit." Right? Comfort is bullshit. Everybody's seeking comfort, right? And I'm paraphrasing Wim Hof here. He said, "Getting the best out of yourself, that's the real comfort zone." And how do you do that? Persistence, right? And more and more as I get on in my years, I see that that's true because I have paid the price for seeking comfort. Anybody who has seen me when I was at my peak of fat, knows that like that was the price I paid for seeking comfort. And it wasn't just physical obesity. There were all sorts of other problems I could go into. I could just count off a litany of grief that caused in my life.
But all sorts of comfort you look for, right? The comfort in food, the comfort in not moving, the comfort in, but the comfort in not speaking your mind, so you don't have to have the discomfort of opinions that are. So then, what's interesting is okay. So then, what do we get out of the comfort? Is comfort is of that of itself the? Remember Brave New World?
Yes, of course.
Where the way you enslave the masses is not through force, but through soma and pleasure and comfort, and you give them all the pleasure and comfort and conveniences in the world, and they are free to do whatever you want with the world.
That's right. That's right. Tony Robbins uses a physics metaphor. He said, a force in motion remains in motion, and a force at rest remains at rest. And most folks now are unwilling to get into motion unless they are cattle prodded to do so when they have to get up and do it and go to work. The problem with this is, I would not have a problem with hedonism. I don't think there's anything wrong with the pursuit of pleasure in itself. I pursue pleasure, myself as well. However, I want to pursue pleasures that are going to enrich me and not destroy me, right? Most of the pleasures that we're pursuing right now are slowly destroying us. And this is another metaphor, that I've said a lot on my morning shows or my wake up videos. It's the notion that you're going to have to pay now or you're going to pay later, And if you don't pay now and you get into that comfort, chickens are going to come home to roost, man. You are at some point going to have to deal with that, and it's going to come in the form of having deep dissatisfaction about your life. It's going to come in the form of obesity. It's going to come in the form of your lover telling you that for some reason they're not attracted to you anymore. Maybe has something to do with your, the fact that you've turned into a sloth, right? But we can't say that. We can't talk about that reality.
And it don't matter if she's a sloth too.
That's right.
Don't matter. Because
No.
she'll say, I'm still not attracted to you. And you'd be like, well, look at you. You're a sloth. And she'd be like, yeah, but I'm a sloth that just blew the mailman, so fuck off.
Oh my God. Boom, reality bomb.
But the mailmen should be getting blowjobs because they're going to be out of jobs soon anyway. So they might as well get a bunch of blowjobs, make them feel comfortable, and then they don't read the Tony Robbins book, so they just get blindsided by not having a job, and then they end up going postal.
This is too much reality for you guys. You are on the wrong show, I'm telling you right now, because we're not going to get softer with this stuff over time, okay? Mitch is a little less politically correct than I am. I want to veer more in this direction, frankly, because I am tired of playing this political correctness game. I'm tired of acting a certain way because I'm afraid of being judged. I know
Judged by the ominous
the
crowd,
right?
The crowd of judging opinions. They're so judgy.
The Camusian crowd.
You must pander.
What I think to close this, there's one really interesting phenomenon that I think we need to observe here. This would be a good note to end on, unless you've got something to add on to it. Why is it that people think that Kamala Harris eviscerated Joe Biden in that exchange, when actually Biden was being the more rational one, and Harris was being the more emotional, histrionic, and frankly terrifying one with some of the things that she was proposing? And the reason why is because emotion is more persuasive than logic. And as copywriters and marketers, we know this better than anybody, right? I look at that exchange, and I think that's mostly it. Because Biden, people were saying, oh, Biden was acting weak. I don't think he was acting too weak at all. I mean, the only weak thing he did was at the end, he said, well, I'm out of time.
And then he said, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he said, I'm sorry, which is weak. It sounds weak. It sounds weak.
Well, I think he was caught blindsided because she was so forceful with her emotions and she was yelling over him. Frankly, I don't think he saw it coming. And he's a human being, and no matter how used you are of some of these things, I don't think he expected her to go so personal like that.
No.
And I think she kind of knows that. But so I'll add something to what you said. You said emotion is much more persuasive than logic, and that's awesome. I agree with that. I would also maybe add that one of the big reasons why, maybe the other reason why people thought that she eviscerated him is because regardless of the content of what she said to him, the feeling of her being able to say that to that person or that man or whatever, that is something that people wish that they could have the power to be like in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. And hey, and you know, on one level, you got to respect that she's standing up to a person of power, but I mean, I don't see him as necessarily having more power than her. At this point, right?
But
I mean,
I'm
he's
sure
ex-vice
so many,
president, but she's
so many
still
women
senator.
who watch it would like, man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Even if it was untrue or whatever, but like, and
I applaud any woman who's going to stand up to a man.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah. I mean, if a woman is being mistreated by a man, I encourage her to stand up and fight for herself.
But bringing that personal shit, then those personal, it was hurt me personally, and I was this little girl on the bus. To bring that into the debate and then to go back there and force yourself to fucking weep a little bit is so gross that it just, to me, it's like, yeah, it was powerful in a way, but it was also super fucking gross and dishonest.
It is, and I think another thing that factors in here is that we are at a point in society right now where anytime you play the race card, it is the Trump card, ironically, that kills all discussion. It's like, well, you can't say anything because once you play the race card, anything you say from that point forward to rebut that makes you sound like a bigot.
Yeah.
That's a problem in society, guys, because discourse should not be like that. We should not just be able to say, well, I have a uterus, therefore I'm right. Really? Is that how we're going to decide things from this point forward?
Well, someone said to me yesterday, like, oh, so there's a Canadian living in Thailand talking about U.S. politics. How fucking funny. And I'm like, what's so fucking funny about that?
The United States has an outsized amount of power in the rest of the world. Everybody in the world has the right to discuss U.S. politics. I'm a former U.S. soldier. I don't have any more right to talk about it than you do.
Right.
I have a vote that you don't have, right? And I think in some way, by the way, I kind of believe I agree with, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, I'm sure. I agree with a sensibility that was expressed by Robert A. Heinlein in the book Starship Troopers. If you've seen the film and you haven't read the book, read the book because they're completely different things, by the way. Right? The book is absolutely amazing. One of the notions that they proposed there was that perhaps veterans should be the only people that get to vote. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of fire on that one. Think about it, guys. Think about it. It's an interesting notion. It's because they're the people who have actually put their lives on the line to defend the things that you all get. Maybe they're more qualified in some way. Maybe it's a bad idea. I don't know. Something to throw out there and consider. But anyway, I'm not going to begrudge you being a Canadian who lives in Thailand for discussing U.S. politics.
Listen, what does that have to do with anything? Like, you debate the idea, you look at the ideas that the person is putting forth.
Veiled ad hom again.
It's a veiled ad hom, and it's a weak one at that because it's so fucking predictable.
Yeah.
And it has no base. It's really just it's like try to shut you up so that you just don't keep speaking.
What was the context of this person saying that to you?
The Bernie Sanders post I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they were just commenting on it.
That was the comment. Yeah, and I was basically like, I was like tore him a strip. I was like, fuck you, man. Like,
I know. It's too bad there's there's no middle finger reaction on Facebook.
I know.
Now.
I wish I could just send like a picture of my balls and just post them. Just be like, huh.
Well, you could.
I did that once to a spammer.
Did you?
Yeah, I got a spam email, so I took a picture of my nuts and sent it back and replied.
Awesome. I think if you did that on Facebook now, you're probably going to lose your account.
Yeah, and you do it on Google now. I mean, that shit'll come back to haunt you.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll be doing something in the public square 10 years from now, and they'll be like, "Well, we found a picture of your nutsack, sir."
Yeah. The world is going to go one of two directions. Well, I mean, here we are being binary, but I mean, there's two ways this kind of thing can go.
That's a logical fallacy, but keep going.
But keep going. Yeah. Right. So everything is binary here, right? No, obviously it's not. But imagine two different scenarios of all of this. Everybody kind of like watching everybody. We're either going to get to a point where everybody realizes, you know what, we're all a little bit weird, we're all a little bit messed up. Let's kind of tone things down a little bit and be a little bit more forgiving and understanding of each other, because we've all got our foibles. We all make mistakes. Everybody watching probably does some weird stuff that if anybody found out about it, people would be super judgy about it, okay? And don't pretend to me like you don't. There's probably one guy
The ones who
going,
pretend they don't are the worst.
Yeah, right? They're
the
the creepiest ones, right? They're the ones, well, I don't even want to give examples of what they could do. That's your job on this show.
So we had this drummer in our band one time.
Oh boy, here we go.
And we went to his house. And I was in his bedroom, and he had a bathroom, and he was living in the basement of his parents' bedroom or his parents' house, and he was 40-something years old. So that's red flag number one. We're in his room, and he's like, "You want any wine?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure, I'll have a glass of wine." He pulls out this cup that had wine in it for like years. It was like crusted with different wines and shit. He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Here you go." I'm like, and he's like, "Would you like a slice of cheese?" And he like pulls out this like sweating piece of cheese, and he like pulls it. I'm like, "Dude, I'm good." I'm like, "I'm gonna go to the bathroom." So I go to the bathroom, like, Jesus Christ. I go, and there's rope. A pile of rope on the toilet and a half-empty bottle of olive oil on the back of the toilet. So now I'm like,
what's going on there?
What's even happening? So then I'm like, okay, Jesus. So I sit there, we're talking about music, and I'm like, I gotta go, man. I get up and I'm about to leave. On the speaker by the door, there's female earrings and lipsticks and eyeshadows and stuff. And I'm like, this guy.
It's total Silence of the Lambs.
This guy can't get laid, man. He's my drummer. I know he doesn't have women over.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, whose are these? He goes,
He's putting on the lipstick. Dude,
he goes,
sexy.
He goes, maybe I had a girl over. Maybe I dress up Saturday nights and go to the Y and dance as a girl. Or maybe it's none of your fucking business. And I was like, it's definitely option number 2. You definitely go to the clubs dressed as a girl on Saturdays. I'm sorry. I gotta go.
I'd be like, you know what? You get on with your bad self, buddy. Another way that this could all go is that everybody's gonna start getting, more judgy and more creepy and more paranoid and locked. And that is the direction I fear we are going right now. Before we did this, we were talking about Black Mirror and how prescient that show has been, because a few years before China's social credit system came into play, they talked about that on Black Mirror, and we're starting to see now. If you guys haven't looked into this, if you don't know, I mean, so you were saying, what was it? A few 100,000 people now have been refused service. Couple million have been refused
domestic
service
flights
on trains.
and trains. Domestic flights too. Google China's social credit system.
It's scary stuff.
And just see the Wikipedia page. It'll blow your fucking face off, the Wikipedia page alone. And to go to Mark's point, when everyone getting judgy and creepy and almost like an antagonistic, turning on each other kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You go you'll see in the social credit system, there's a city in China, or multiple cities now, where they release these lists of debtors and people who are debtors in your own community. And if you notice and you see them living a lifestyle in which you think that they could be paying their debts back, but they're not, you get to tattle on them and get more credits. Okay, so what I'm freaked out about is what you just said. What happens when we start gamifying it? Because this whole, as we move to a more collective type mindset, we're actually, the collective is to turn on each other. It's not it's equality of it's meant to turn in on each other so that we can all act the same. It's like you need to all act like this. So you make sure this person's acting like this. That's why typically when we move to socialism, and the more hardcore they go, they try to abolish religion. There's burning of books. There's fucking cross breaking.
That's it. And the people who are apologizing for this stuff and think it's okay, they say things like, "Well, I'm not a criminal, I'm not a weirdo, so it's okay." Well, let's leave everybody to ponder 2 things. Okay, one is, you are probably a criminal and a weirdo to a certain extent. Okay, we all are a little bit in some ways. Okay, and if you're not, I'm sorry, you're probably lying. Okay, 2, who determines what is crime and what is weird?
Yes.
Okay, and do you want some central authority determining that for everybody? Because maybe in the rules as they are right now, everything that you're doing is cool. But how do you know that they're not going to turn that on a dime? And I'll just tell you one interesting story. And I don't know if did we talk about this in episode number 1? Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about the Falun Gong, about how in China, they were telling people, to do Falun Gong, and then, on a dime, they turned and they said, oh no, all the followers, all the practitioners of Falun Gong are bad people, enemies of the state, and they started executing them. Okay, so that's how quickly these things can change. That is how terrifying centralization of power is. And if you're following politicians who are arguing for that, think deeply about it, guys. Think really, really deeply. Do not be swayed by the emotional arguments. Be brave enough to stand up against the people who are going to browbeat you into one position or another. Think for yourself. Think very, very carefully about the things that are being proposed, because to me, a lot of this stuff is terrifying, and we should not be standing for it. And that's one of the things that inspired us to start this show, which will probably be banned at some point off all of these channels. That's why you got to go to thelastmen.show. Boom, right there. Okay, and opt in to the email list if you want to continue watching this stuff, because we ain't gonna stop. These guys might stop us on these channels, that's fine, but we're not gonna stop. We're gonna figure out ways to do it. The best channel that we know of now is email, so go to thelastmen.show and opt in. And by the way, when you do that, we're gonna be sending you guys all kinds of cool stuff too, all right? So if you're interested in being an entrepreneur, making more money, being more prosperous,
Building an empire,
and doing it in a way that is going to last through what we talked about in episode 1, what I call the transition tribulation. Opt in there, because that's where we're going to be getting all the goodies. So we're not just going to be ranting about politics and complaining about things here, guys. We're going to be giving you guys practical solutions that we think are required to survive this stuff, because your jobs as they are right now are probably not going to last, folks. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but you better face that reality now. Entrepreneurialism is the only thing that's going to save most of us.
and it's not easy to keep. If you think, one of the reasons you're afraid, I know, is because you realize how quick society can change.
Yep.
Especially historically, we think that the way the system is, it's so strong. No, on a fucking dime.
That's absolutely
On a fucking dime. And so even as a business owner, your freedom is constantly trying to be taken away from you in little ways. And even as a business owner, you are not safe. There's all sorts of regulations. It's only going to get worse. Things are not going to get better generally for society. In the Western society right now, they are going to get worse. It doesn't mean that your life has to be worse. And it doesn't mean that you can't build an empire. But we are not entering a very happy, prosperous age. Things are about to get.
We could be if we're thoughtful and we're smart about it. But people are not being thoughtful and smart about these things.
And historically, they never do. This is what's sad. Is like it's all been repeated before. We have technology, but that's only going to. Have you ever heard the phrase? A system that is flawed, the quicker you move that system, the more it accelerates the destruction of that system. I think technology, like human beings are human beings. I think technology is just going to accelerate the bad so fast. It's going to accelerate the good too, but it's a very complex world right now, and there's no simplistic solutions.
Yeah.
And so opt in, because we're going to be teaching you very specific, complex things that aren't easy to understand. Very complex business principles and
well, we're going to make them
economics.
easy to understand.
Yes.
Easier to understand than
It's
than
easy
most.
to understand when you take them in bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And you apply them. But life's not going to get easier, but it will get better for you if you choose.
And if you think avoidance behaviors and crawling into your cave is the way to go, well, just ask yourself, if you walked into somebody's house and they had bricks of gold in their house and they were hooked up to a machine and they couldn't see you or hear you, and you knew you could walk out of the house with one of those bricks, would you do it? Would you do it? I think the temptation would be pretty strong for most of us. That's a metaphor for what you are doing with your life and your livelihood when you don't get tough and you don't face reality. The price of freedom is constant vigilance. Okay, and right now, folks are not very vigilant because we're not paying attention to the real game. We're distracted with all of these side games. This is why most of these conversations that we're having when I say that they're last century's arguments, last century's discussions, last century's issues, I don't think that's by accident, guys. I think that's somehow deliberate. I'm not going to get into like, what I think the forces are behind that, or like the who or the why and all that. We can only speculate about those things, but it's an observable phenomenon. You do need to get real. You do need to get tough. If you don't, we talked about earlier, pay now or pay later.
Nobody's going to save you. Nobody. And the more you want the government to help you out and to save you, the more that you're leaving yourself completely vulnerable and open, and like a child. It's time to grow up, and it's time to take care of yourself and your family, and hey, the world if you want. But no one's going to save you. No one's going to put you on. It's up to you.
It is totally up to you. And guys, let's end it on this last note. Okay.
It's like the 30th time we've said this.
30th last note. All right, this will be the final.
This is like Dan Kennedy retiring.
This is oh my God. No disrespect meant to Dan Kennedy. All right, the guy's a genius. All right, so guys, if you watched episode 1, I'm going to repeat something that I said there, and if you read the Transition Tribulation comic books that I released through Simpleology, you will have read that too. But I'll just say this: the conflict of the future is not between nation states. It's not between ideologies. It's not between races. Okay, it's between fast-moving technology and slow-moving governments. Guys, I don't know of any way that that's not going to become reality if you look at the technological trends as they are. Okay, that is the cold, hard reality. When you take that and you juxtapose that with, I'm just going to rely on the government to take care of me, good luck. All right, folks, you have a beautiful day, and we will talk to you again very soon. We're going to be doing this more regularly, and we want your feedback on things that you want us to talk about, what you like, what you don't like. Be brutal with us. We're being pretty blunt and direct in this show. We want you to be blunt and direct with us. If you disagree with us, too, we want to hear that, too. In fact, I encourage disagreement, as long as it's civil, guys. Don't be dicks. If you're dicks, we'll just find it entertaining anyway, all right? But it will be more instructive and useful for all of us if everybody has a good, healthy discussion. That's what we would like to stimulate, and I think that that's what's going to be better for the world, too. All right, guys, you have a beautiful day. We'll talk to you again soon.